Hello, I am not trying to bring 2008 back. I actually have bone issues, and arm warmers help with that because it keeps my hands and bones warm. So today's question is about our past life lessons that maybe we didn't learn that have now kind of made their way into this life. And yeah, basically, hopefully this will bring it to your attention and you can work on that. So for the first pile, we have the antique anatomy tarot, and you can see it looks kind of like those old school medical books. The crystal associated with it is the desert rose. We have the zombie tarot. It's kind of like 50s style but zombie with an obsidian crystal. And then for our final pile, we have the Santa Muerte tarot. Very intricate, deep, beautiful paintings with the turquoise crystal. And for those of you who are new to pick a cards, basically you will take a moment to meditate on one of these. If you're one of those people where your instinct just tells you like it's this one, go ahead. And it's recommended that you don't look at one of them and go, oh, this one's pretty, I'll just click on that one, because usually that's not a message for you, but maybe for some of you it is. Maybe that's how your intuition works. So go ahead and meditate, pick a crystal or a pile, it doesn't matter, and I'll see you at your timestamps. Hello, pile number one. If you selected the antique anatomy tarot with the desert rose, this is your pile. So for your tarot cards, you received the Wheel of Fortune, and when it popped out, it came out upright, but it slipped off my legs onto the floor and it fell in reverse. But the Wheel of Fortune is kind of like about our cycles, right? Like you have good luck, but it's telling you to enjoy it because eventually you'll have bad luck. And if you have bad luck, it's telling you to not worry because you're gonna have good luck again. It's basically just telling you that life comes and goes in cycles. So regardless of how you receive it, it's kind of the same message. Received the Nine of Wands, the Page of Cups, the Tower in reverse. Your last 4 cards are in reverse, kind of like blocked energies. All right. Then you received the Rebel in reverse. You received the Scribe and the Warrior. Fear and Forgiveness. Let's see if I can. It's so annoying trying to get all these cards in like one screen. All right, and you received Scorpio. The Sun, Leo, conjunction Venus. And you received 2 cloud cards, which are Silent and Dark. So because it kind of like flipped around, I feel like this is obviously like the cycle thing I was talking about, but maybe you had kind of like a fear that your happiness wouldn't last, so you didn't enjoy the happiness while it was there because you were just scared of it like leaving so quickly. Like maybe you had this anxiety looming over you even when you had happy times, and when you had negative times, you kind of felt like they were gonna last forever, and you felt like giving up, which I hate to be that person that's like, don't be a Debbie Downer, like fuck that person, but you know, it's kind of telling you like maybe you have a lot of anxiety that makes you focus on the negative when life isn't just negative things. You also have the Page of Cups in reverse, which is like emotional immaturity. So maybe, you know, that's part of it. Not necessarily that you're being immature, but just like there's a lot of healing that has to be done in regards to that. Like, I'm not sure where that fear is stemming from. You also got the Fear card over here, so maybe you feel like your happiness is going to be taken away from you very quickly. The Page of Cups in reverse can also indicate emotional blocks, creative blocks. Like maybe when you feel you have something going, you always run into a block. Maybe when you feel like you have a lot of progress done emotionally or even creatively, you always run into a block and you're just kind of like, what the hell is this about? You also receive the Tower in reverse, which can indicate an averted disaster, but it can also indicate that all your disasters are happening internally. So it's not like, you know, oh, I lost my house, oh, I lost my job, oh, my neighborhood caught fire. It's literally like all your chaos is happening inward. You also received the Queen of Pentacles in reverse. So the Queen of Pentacles is the working mother. She's the woman who has, you don't have to be a woman, you don't have to identify as a woman, that's not the point. It's just like the, I suppose, archetype of someone who has like their career and their home life together. But you got it in reverse. So that means like maybe you struggled balancing both of those lives, or maybe you struggled it usually doesn't mean career, even though you did have creative blocks here, so it could indicate that. I feel it was more home life. It can indicate like, you know, your family is like, hey, you're not spending enough time over here, or maybe something happened. Maybe your anxiety stems from your childhood, and so you feel like all that anxiety is tied to your family, and you don't kind of don't want to be around them or something. And maybe your family, you know, needs you, but there's some kind of like need not being met with your family. Then you have the Knight of Pentacles also in reverse, which can indicate boredom or stillness, kind of. The Knight of Pentacles is like the only knight that's not charging into action. If you look at the original artwork for the tarot deck, he's kind of like walking at his own steady pace, and when it's in reverse, it's not a steady pace. It's like you feel like you're stuck, which again might go back to the Page of Cups in reverse. Like you feel those blocks and you don't know why they're happening. Yeah. So here, when people pull out, you know, astrology cards, they're always like, maybe you're a Leo, maybe blah blah blah. Like I don't do that. I just take the energy of the card. And so if you're not a Scorpio, if you're not a Leo, that doesn't matter. That's not the point of these cards. The point is to talk about the energy, and also it's the energy of your past life, right? So like you don't have to relate to the energy of a Scorpio right now. It's the energy that you had in a past life that is causing you burdens now. So Scorpio, and then the Sun. So it could be a Scorpio Sun, so it's like a person who is a Scorpio, but when I think of a Scorpio, it's kind of like a person who is very, I want to use the word mystifying, very mysterious, sexual, of course, sexually attractive. Like even when they don't try to be, people sexualize them anyway, which is unfortunate, because a lot of the times that can lead to like abusive situations. We also received Leo and the Sun, so that's like exaltation. For those of you who are familiar with astrology, it's basically like one of the best places you can have the sun is in Leo, because Leo is ruled by the sun. So it's like this very strong, powerful energy. Leo is also like the center of attention, right? Again, even when they don't want to be, like maybe they have a Cancer moon and they just want to be like cocooned all day like a hermit crab, but like the Leo moon is by default, like it draws people's attention. So I feel like there was a lot of eyes on you, like even if you didn't want it, like people were sexualizing you, or people were like, you were the center of attention even if you didn't want to be. And it's conjunct Venus. So the sun conjunct Venus, conjunct basically means the two luminaries are next to each other and their energies combine. So when the sun is next to any planet, it basically brightens the energy of said planet. So in this case, you have the sun next to Venus. So Venus is love, it's beauty, it's harmony, romance, charm, not necessarily sexuality. It's not like Mars and Pluto, it's like sensuality. So that conjunct the sun, it's like amplified, right? And so now you have, again, like these, you were just like maybe a very beautiful person, or like people kind of I'm getting the feeling people might have treated you like a plaything, or like you were kind of like when people see someone pretty and they just presume they're stupid. But that's not true. Like here you literally have the scribe, which says preserving knowledge and information. I'm getting the fact, I'm receiving the message that you were a very intellectual person. You were constantly preserving knowledge. You're probably one of those people that like knows a bunch of random facts for no reason. And people are like, okay, like that's cool, but also why the hell do you know that? You were like a very smart, informational person, but you might have been treated like you were stupid just because you were so pretty. You received the Rebel in reverse, which says rejects legitimate authority out of anger and rebels out of peer pressure or fashion. So I'm getting, I mean, just because it says fashion, it doesn't necessarily mean literal fashion, but you were probably a very fashionable, pretty person. However, maybe it says rejects legitimate authority out of anger. So I'm guessing like because people treated you like you were stupid, or like they constantly sexualized you, like maybe there were authority figures that treated you that way, and you were just so pissed about it that you just started rejecting all of authority. So maybe in this life, you know, you had authority figures who made you feel like shitty. I'm getting like the image, you know when you hear about those people that went to Catholic school and they were treated so shittily in Catholic school that they just hate all Catholics? That's kind of like the like imagery I'm getting. Like you don't have to reject all of it. You don't have to, you know, disrespect. A lot of them aren't disrespectful, but you know, there are some people that are just like, well, fuck religion, fuck this. Like they're really angry about it, and it's like, I understand you went through something shitty, but not everyone who is associated with that is doing something shitty, if that makes sense. I also get the feeling that like because you were so sexualized, or because you were treated so like you were just something to be pretty for, like whenever someone genuinely complimented you, like, oh, I really like your hair, you were like, this fucking bitch is hitting on me. But like that's just kind of like the vibe I'm getting. Like you were just kind of like angry because you were treated so shittily for so long. But you were actually very smart, and you were the warrior, which says strength, skill, discipline. So it's kind of like, you know, these things they don't associate with someone who's pretty. When they think of someone who's pretty, they think of someone who's weak, someone who's dainty, someone who's fragile. but you're like, no, I'm the warrior. They think of someone who's stupid, who's an airhead, but you're like, no, I'm the scribe. So it's kind of like you were the opposite of what people were perceiving you as, just because you were so fucking pretty. And I'm guessing that has translated into this life. Some way or another, you've probably been treated like this. And so now you have a fear, and that's maybe like part of the defensiveness, like if someone compliments you and you take it into offense, or you know, like you have a fear of authority figures because people abuse their authority with you in the past. But you're being asked to forgive. And I know that's not easy, and that's probably part of your shadow work, and that might be where a lot of your anxiety comes from, because you're like, even when you have something good, you know, the people in power have treated you shittily. So it's like, yeah, I could get this dream job, but what if my boss is like sexually harassing me? Like, I don't know, that's just kind of the vibe I'm getting. Like, even when you get something nice, people around you have ruined it. But it's asking you to have forgiveness, and that's not easy. It's also, forgiveness is more for yourself than it is for the other person. You know, like, you can forgive someone and never let them know about it. It's really about, okay, and if you read this, it says, I acknowledge that harboring resentment blocks the flow of love. So we have the Page of Cups in reverse, which is like blocking your emotions. So you've probably stopped yourself from loving people, which is funny because here, Venus, love, Leo, the lover, you probably like want to love people, but you've been like so fucked over that you're like, I'm just gonna stick with fear. But and here's another message about love. It literally says, I realize that I am testing my resolve to live in the energy of love. So you're basically scared to love, and maybe that's why you avoid your family. You know, they're asking you to like come and spend more time with them. You're kind of like, no. You've essentially blocked yourself off from love, but you're only hurting yourself by doing that. So it's asking you to forgive yourself, or forgive the people who have caused you to feel that way. You know, maybe you do feel kind of guilty, like, oh, I kind of like abandoned my family, or I don't really pay attention to them because I'm burying myself in work to escape my emotions. But it's asking you to forgive yourself and to forgive, you know, whoever hurt you in the past, because you're only hurting yourself by not loving or allowing love to be given to you. And you receive the Silent, which is basically telling you to be quiet, to meditate, to really reflect on why it is you feel this way, what it is you're feeling, and to look for solutions. And then you received the Dark, which is about letting things take their course. So don't force anything. You know, if you're not ready to forgive, that's fine. You don't have to be ready, but like, maybe try to put the work in, or try to, you know, when something terrible happens to us, a lot of the times we don't even process it, or we suppress it. And so it's kind of like, maybe just start the baby steps of forgiveness. You don't have to automatically forgive, but just kind of like analyzing what happened to you. In the Dark, I also think of like shadow work, because it is darkness, you know. It's basically, don't force anything, but you have a lot of inner work to do, and that's probably what this Tower is in reverse is about, like all your inner chaos. It's not anything around you that has to be resolved, it's all inside. And I'm sorry people treated you like shit, that sucks, group 1, but I hope this message was helpful, and I wish you the best of luck. On to group number 2. Hello, pile number 2 that selected the obsidian crystal with the zombie tarot. This is your reading. So you got the sun, and you got the moon. Nice. You got, this was really weird. Okay, you got the 8 of hazards, the 7 of hazards, the 6 of hazards, 8, 7, 6. And then I was like, let's just pull out one card, and I shuffled the crap out of it. And then you pulled a 9. 9, 8, 7, 6. I mean, at first I was like, maybe I didn't shuffle properly. No, I don't know what it is about numbers or sequences. Maybe you have a message for you somewhere. Maybe you're one of those people that sees 11, 11 everywhere. But yeah, your numbers are acting funny today. It was literally the sun, the moon, 9, 8, 7, 6. What the hell? What the hell? All right. Then you received the shapeshifter, the healer in reverse, and the pioneer. Interesting. You received failure and guilt. And then you received Gemini. You received Leo. I'm gonna move these just because I know I want to pick them up and show you guys the images. I feel like imagery is very important with this tarot deck. If you're attracted to this tarot deck and you're a beginner, I definitely would suggest a different deck of cards just because the imagery is very different. But if you're more of an intuitive reader and you don't really pay attention to the traditional meanings of the cards, this might be a nice one. And then you just received houses. The first house, the 5th house, the 10th house, and then your 2 cloud cards were the jump and the illusion. So we'll get into those. So the sun and the moon, it's like super happiness, and then the moon is intuition and possibly fears. But I feel like you were maybe a very well-balanced person. You also received Gemini, which is like the twins, the duality. So maybe you were someone who was very balanced. Or there was like 2 sides of you, right? There's like the sun, the happy you, and then there's like the moon, which is like more of a calmer, intuitive, spooky energy. You also received the 8 of hazards. So the 8 of hazards. Okay, I'm gonna read them as the traditional meanings, and then I'm gonna show you how this specific deck interprets these cards. So you have the 8 of hazards, which is the 8 of Pentacles. It's someone who's putting in a lot of hard work, a hard worker, someone who doesn't care how menial or how tedious a task is. They're going to do it because they're a hard worker. The 7 of hazards is a hard worker who, it's usually depicted as a person in a garden. Like they've reaped the rewards of their hard work. So you know, I mean, you don't see it from this image, but it's kind of like you sowed the seeds, you put in all the work, and now you're seeing the rewards of that work. The 6 of Pentacles is give and take. You know, you were probably, if you did, I'm getting the feeling you were someone famous. I don't want to be that person. You know, every time there's a past life reading, there's always some like hokey woman telling you like, you were the pharaoh, blah blah. You're always someone important. Like, sure, out of all the freaking people in the world, I happen to be Marilyn Monroe, sure. But like, I really get the feeling you were someone famous, or someone important, which we'll talk more about in a minute. But But yeah, so like once you were famous or once you were rich, whatever the situation is, I feel like you gave a lot back to the community, or like you gave a lot back to a lot of people. But people probably weren't giving back to you though, or like a lot of people might have used you for your money, which we'll talk about in a minute. Then we have the Nine of Hazards, which is it's similar to the Seven of Hazards in terms of like putting work in and reaping the rewards. It's also like yeah, I'm just getting like that hard worker energy. But so what I see here is it's kind of like a test subject, right? You might have felt, and you see the image here too. If you look closely, you can see this woman is like looking at this person in a cage, this zombie in a cage. So you might have felt like a spectacle, kind of like people stopped treating you like a human. You became more of like, I don't want to say a freak. I just kind of like a, you know how like when people dehumanize celebrities, that's the vibe I'm getting. Like you were kind of like all of that. You became this object, this representation of something instead of a human to other people. You can also see in here, the scientist is kind of like, and it's so funny, it kind of reminds me of like a recording studio, right? But he's clearly like testing on the zombie. And when I read the meaning of the card, it said like, oh, you're putting in all the work and like the zombie's getting better at doing whatever it does, right? But I'm getting the feeling that there was like some kind of person, like for example, if it is a musician, right, like there's some kind of like manager or some kind of like record label person who was like exploiting you, or like constantly taking advantage of the situation, or they were like putting the work in, but you were the one who is like really putting the work in. And that's kind of the vibe I'm getting here too. You can see like, yeah, he's mowing the lawn, but if you look closer, he's like chained to the lawnmower. Yeah, he's mowing the lawn, but he doesn't really want to do it. He's being tempted. Like maybe you were like a poor person and there's this person like waving money in your face, like, hey, you can have a lot of money if you like mow the lawn, or like do whatever it is this famous person, you know, whatever it was that made you famous, I suppose. You can also see here like all the zombies are on leashes. I'm not sure if you can see it, but they're all like tied to leashes. So maybe you felt very trapped or very used, very exploited, much like the leash and the chains like make me think of like a pet, kind of like people just, I don't know, like maybe they did train you for the job or something, but like they clearly like exploited you afterwards. Then you received Gemini. You were probably a very creative person, very smart person. Geminis, their minds just work like a million miles a minute. Like you're probably thinking, you probably had a lot of creative ideas, and you just got with someone who helped you further those or fund those creative ideas, but you just ended up exploited in the end. And then you have Leo, which is like the star of the show, the center of attention. So again, Leo is a very like famous aspect. And you received the first house, which is the house of the self. It's also the ascendant. So it's like how you interact with someone, when you're one-on-one with them. But then the thing that squares the first house is usually the 10th house, which is like your reputation, your career. So I feel like maybe who you were as a person was kind of ignored for who you were in your career. Maybe you had to put on a kind of persona for your career. Again, this duality, right? Gemini, sun, moon, first, 10th. It's kind of like you were someone else, but people put this like image onto you. Like they just assumed you were your persona, or they assumed you were whatever the fuck the media was saying about you. Like, I just kind of get those vibes. And with the fifth house is Leo, and it can also be fame. So I'm guessing, I really think you were a famous person, or like someone held in really high regard to the point where you like just didn't become human anymore. Like people just, you're more like an idea than you were an actual person to them. And maybe you find yourself experiencing that in your life now. Like maybe you feel you have to be someone for, you know, a certain group of people, or like you have to be someone at work, but that stops you from being, you know, who you are. Or maybe people, for whatever reason, put their ideas of who you are onto you, and even though that's not who you are, like you have to deal with the repercussions of what their preconceived notions of you are, which is bullshit. You could also be feeling exploited. You could be feeling kind of like, you know, like this freak show energy that I was talking about. You're probably very much the center of attention now. Like you might be really good at your job, or you may be a really beautiful person. There's some kind of attention being drawn to you, and it might be with your mind because of Gemini, but yeah, I feel like because there is so much attention, like even when you're not around, maybe people are gossiping about you. Gemini can be very gossipy. So like you're like the center of their gossip. Like even though you don't really do anything to them, even though you don't really know them, like people are constantly talking about it, and you're just kind of like, you know, if they build up this image about you, you know, if you're Leo is very confident, Leo is very attention grabby, but then if people are gossiping about that, they're like, that bitch thinks she's all that, you know. So like maybe that's the energy. Like just because you're showing one thing, people like misconstrue it as something else, and then they judge you for it even though you had nothing to do with it. You're probably not stuck up, you know, who you are. You're probably very nice, very kind, maybe even super modest, but people will just perceive you as something else, and then you have to like deal with those consequences. So you have the shapeshifter, which is skilled at navigating through different levels of consciousness, ability to see potential in everything. So you might be very good at meditating, spiritual work. You might be very good at reading people too. Like you can just tell when someone's been talking shit about you. But because you got the light attributes, it's not in reverse. Like I don't see you using this negatively or anything. The ability to see potential in everything. So against like Gemini, your mind is probably having a million different ideas. You just see potential in everything, and you just kind of want to take off with it, because you did get the pioneer, which is passion for doing and creating what has not been done before. So I feel like you have a lot of ideas happening. You see potential in everything, so it's like you just kind of want to take an idea and run with it, but then you have like a million ideas you want to do that to, and maybe you end up doing it with none of the ideas, and that can be kind of like an issue for you. Like your overactive mind, like it's beautiful, it's great, but also it like stops you from focusing on one thing. You did receive the healer in reverse, which is taking advantage of those who need help and failing to care for oneself. So I know, because this is your card, you would think you're taking advantage of those who need help, But I'm thinking that's a message from like this person who's like taking advantage of you. You needed help, or maybe you needed money, and like there's someone who like exploited you over there. And it says failing to take care of oneself. So I feel like you kind of neglected your mental health, your, you know, needs, your wants, your needs, for these people that didn't give a fuck about you. And maybe you're doing that now in your life. You know, that's a lesson you haven't learned yet. Like, you need to stop caring about what these people who don't care about you are thinking or saying or doing or gossiping. And you need to pay more attention to like what it is that you need. Failure. I understand that a mistake is only an opportunity to learn. And guilt. I release any belief that no longer assist my soul's growth. Okay, especially with the soul growth thing, I think back to the shapeshifter of like, you're a very spiritual person, growing the self. You know, and I've been there when someone's gossiping about you, when people are trying to make your life miserable. It's really shitty. It's a really shitty situation. But you have to understand that like the more, like I remember I was pulling tarot cards for myself with my guides, and I was asking them about, you know, these people who were like making me so upset, and they're literally, their response was pretty much always, this does not matter. This does not matter in the grand scheme of things. This does not matter now. This does not affect your life. This does not serve your life purpose. So you might get caught up in like, it seems like a really big deal when you're in the middle of it, but like it literally does not serve you. It does not serve you to focus on their gossiping. It does not serve you to counter gossip, whatever the fuck they're telling, you know, other people about you. It does not count, like, it doesn't serve you. And I know it's really hard, like even thinking about it now, I'm like, but they were assholes, but like, but it doesn't serve you. Like it literally, your soul does not grow by gossiping or by paying attention to those who gossip about you. You know, if possible, just straight up remove yourself from the situation, because it's just not worth it in the end. And failure. So I get the feeling that maybe because you have so many ideas, one of the reasons you don't want to start on any of them is because you fear failure. You're like, I have like, you know, 6 ideas, but what if they fail? So then you just don't do anything at all, which is like doesn't help anyone, doesn't help your situation. It's kind of like let go of the fear of failure. Like if you do fail, it's literally just a learning opportunity, and maybe you can take that on to the next project. And if that one fails, you can learn what failed from this one and this one, and maybe your third idea will succeed. You shouldn't be, you know, I forget what the word is, but basically you shouldn't be like discouraged by failure or the thought of failure. You received the illusion and the jump. So the jump is about when I think about it, it's like about he's jumping, he's taking a leap, but he's like not leaping into anything. So like you're taking a leap of faith, but you're doing it kind of blindly. Like you have nowhere to land, and then you have the illusion right after. So it's kind of like, yeah, you have a lot of ideas, but make sure you're not, and again, like they're telling you, don't fear failure, but don't be an idiot, basically. Don't fear, you know, messing up or things not working out, but at the same time, don't jump into something completely unprepared. They're asking you to be smart about it. And to not, you know, if you're still learning from this lesson of your past life, like maybe there's someone in your life now that's taking advantage of you. And maybe, unfortunately, it's someone close to you, you know, maybe it's like a loved one, a family member, a boss that you really looked up to. You know, sometimes bosses can be like teachers, like people, you know, they joke and they're like, oh, my boss is such an ass or whatever, but like sometimes they can be mentors. And so I feel like maybe it's someone you look up to, someone you're close with, and so you don't want to believe that they're taking advantage of you or that they're exploiting you, but it's kind of asking you, like, don't have an illusion about it. And don't have guilt about it. Like, if something, you know, really bad happened, if you were exploited in any, you know, abusive way, it's not your fault. Like, basically, don't have guilt about it, and don't have guilt about cutting this person out from your life, you know, or cutting these gossipy people out from your life. If there's people who are basically spending their lives dragging you down or trying to make you feel bad, like, don't feel bad when you want to cut them out of your life, because like their BS is not serving you. Well, unfortunately, much like pile 1, this group was exploited, and I hope you guys can get away from that situation. I hope you're not, you know, I hope maybe this is something from the past, other than your past life. Like, unfortunately for some of you, this will be your current situation, but regardless, you're still currently healing from it, and I wish you the best of luck in that. I hope it was helpful. On to pile number 3. Hello, pile number 3. Yes, I know my numbers and definitely didn't have to look at anything. You selected the turquoise and the Santa Muerte Tarot. Santa Muerte. I speak Spanish. I know how to say it. I don't know why I Americanize myself. Yeah. Sorry. I get very defensive about that because I know growing up they kind of shamed you for speaking Spanish. And I'm gonna stop talking before I get into a political rant. So here we go. Santa Muerte Tarot. You received the 8 of Wands, which is about speed and things happening quickly. You received the 3 of Wands. Oh, but it's in reverse. So you probably have this feeling that you're stuck. You have the 3 of Wands in reverse, which is kind of like you fear exploration. Maybe you're not exploring. Not out of fear, but maybe you fear the unknown. Maybe you fear, maybe you're just distracted with other things that stop you from exploring. And you have the High Priestess in reverse, which is intuition, blocked intuition, ignored intuition, secret knowledge, maybe that you feel you don't have access to. You have the Devil in reverse. So many reversals. The Devil in reverse is about the inability to let go of an addiction. You feel tied down. You feel like you can't escape this addiction. You feel like it's all consuming. And then you received the 9 of Cups, which is your only card not in reverse, and it is the wish card, which means you will get your wish. And then you have the 8 of Cups in reverse, which is, okay, this energy makes sense. So it's basically you not wanting to walk away from a situation that no longer serves you. So let's explore that. You received the slave in reverse. Oh no. The damsel. The dilettante. Okay, maybe we have a feminine energy here. And maybe because you're so feminine, people like to take advantage of you or walk all over you. Like they think that just because you're feminine or just because you're, you know, quiet or kept to yourself, maybe even you have like a delicate, like delicate physical features, and you have people like treat you crappy because of that. You know, there's people who just think they can like walk all over you. 9th house in Gemini. You're very smart. And you received 3 cloak cards, which we will get to in a minute. Alrighty. So we have the situation with the devil and the high priestess. The devil, again, it's like about feeling like you can't walk away from a certain situation, but it can also be like a literal addiction, like a drug addiction, or, you know, other addictions, which I don't even know if I'm allowed to say on here, whatever. But I'm almost getting the feeling, and not necessarily, but for some of you, this may be a person, like someone very negative. Because I'm getting the feeling, it says you don't want to walk away, which is different from feeling trapped. So, I mean, I don't know if you're kind of one of those people that like resigns to their situation, like, yeah, I'm addicted, whatever. Or if there's like, it becomes more complicated when it's another person because, you know, you remember all the happy times, you remember all the good times, and you become emotionally attached to this individual. And then, you know, all the shitty parts come out. And now it's harder to let go because you're still remembering all the good times. So that could be, you know, a situation. You also have the high priestess in reverse, which is about like not listening to your intuition or suppressing your intuition, or maybe even feeling like I heard like not worthy of intuition. You know, there's a lot of people who do believe in spiritual things, but then they feel like they're too fucked up of a person to interact with these otherworldly things. You know, if you believe that you're a crappy person or that you're a piece of whatever, you know, you'll probably find it difficult to interact with an angel or something. For those of you who are more on the spiritual side, for those of you who are not, maybe you've been ignoring, you know, your intuition is telling you like, hey, you gotta get out of here, you gotta get out of this situation, but you're choosing not to because you're scared of the unknown. You're scared that if you walk away, your situation will be worse. And so instead of moving or getting out of the situation, you kind of just stay stuck. You don't go anywhere. Even though your intuition is telling you and you're ignoring it. Even though you know this is a bad situation, you're just scared of the unknown, essentially. But you do have the wish card, so I feel like the moment you walk away, you'll be fine. You just have so much fear for no reason. Well, not for no reason. But I'm sorry, let me drink water. Excuse me. You have fear of the unknown. You know, it's not like, oh, I know that if I leave, the situation's gonna be way worse. Like, you don't know. You don't know. It's the unknown. I'm also getting randomly choked up, which I've heard other tarot readers say that's when your querent has like or querent, I suppose, has a blocked throat chakra. I don't know. I've never personally, you know, experienced that when I'm reading for someone. So I couldn't tell you if that's confirmed or not, but like maybe some of you do feel like you have a lot to say but you can't say it, or maybe you want to talk to someone but like you don't, or maybe you feel like you don't have anyone to talk to. That could be a message for some of you. I could also just be choking for no reason. I don't know. And that's the wonder of tarot. So you received the Slave in Reverse, which is the shadow attribute, which means giving your willpower to an external authority out of fear of making your own choice. So maybe that's your fear, that you're gonna make a bad choice that's gonna ruin your life or something. But staying in the situation is ruining your life. So you're giving your willpower, you're giving your autonomy, I'm sorry, to this drug or to this addiction or to this person or whatever the situation is. You're just relinquishing your control because you'd rather not deal with the consequences of making a bad choice. But you won't make a bad choice. You're gonna have your dream come true, or at least your wish, you know, if your wish is to not be in a shitty situation anymore, your wish will come true. You just need to like stop giving your control over to this other, whatever this is. You received the Damsel. Understanding the nature of healthy romance, okay, inspires you to rely on yourself. So I really am starting to think this is about a relationship. Not to say that if you were relating to the literal substance addiction message that this isn't for you, but yeah, I feel like once you leave the situation, something else will come, someone else, or like, it doesn't need to be romantic. It can be a job. It can be, you know, you're the love of your friends, of your family. Like, you will see what healthy romance, what healthy love is once you get out of this situation. And it says inspires you to rely on yourself. So right now you're depending on whatever this person is, whatever the substance is, but once you like relinquish that, and you know, if it is a substance addiction, it's not going to be that easy. But once you can admit to that, and I see you becoming more of an independent individual, and I see you receiving love, healthy love, not toxic. Sometimes it's good, most of the times it's abusive. You have the Dilettante, which says, delights in the arts without having to be a professional. Alerts you to the danger of becoming superficial in your pursuits. Okay. So for some of you, you know, you might find art very therapeutic. You know, and it doesn't have to be literal art. It can be, maybe you're a writer, maybe you're, you know, a fashionable person and you find a lot of, you know, you express yourself creatively through what you wear. It could be literally anything artistic. And it doesn't have to be professional, but it still ends up being very therapeutic for you. Like, you'll find a lot of happiness in whatever it is you do creatively. Alerts you to the danger of becoming superficial in your pursuits. So again, like the superficial in your pursuits, I'm getting two ideas. I'm guessing like I'm not guessing. I'm getting the image that like once you leave this situation, don't just jump towards the first thing that comes to you. Don't go to, you know, like the first pretty shiny object person. Freaking like, you still have a lot of healing to do. Um, yeah. I'm also realizing that I'm reading this as if it's your current situation. This is your past life situation that you may have similar elements of in your current life. So if you're like, I'm not a crackhead, like, that's cool, dude. Past life you probably was. So just keep that in mind. Sorry, I was reading in like present tense. And the second message that I'm getting from here is kind of like the superficialness of this relationship. Like, yeah, it was kind of like, I'm getting the feeling like when you do see abusive relationships and the person is like, oh, but they were so good at the beginning, and then you're like, what did they do? And you're like, oh, they brought me flowers. And it's like, okay, that is not a good person. Like, a Nazi can bring you flowers, you know what I mean? That doesn't make them a good person. So like, maybe this thing that you were dependent on wasn't even that good to begin with. It was superficial. Service. I feel good when I help others. Okay, so this is kind of like, and freedom. Okay, service, freedom, and the slave card. Let's talk about that. So you are one of those individuals that shows their love through acts of service. You know, you're not, I'm gonna buy you this and that. You're not, I'm gonna cuddle you, hug and kiss. You're like, oh, I love you. I'm gonna, I don't know, you're sick, I'm gonna make you soup. You're tired, I'm gonna wash your dishes. Like, you basically express your love through acts of service. But I feel like you were exploited. Like, someone saw that you do this, and then they twisted it, and they manipulated you into, you know, I'll just do all my chores for me. Oh, they kind of became, in a way, dependent on you. Like, they just let you do everything. And not even necessarily dependent, just kind of like lazy. Like, they just didn't want to do anything, so they put all the work on you, and you kind of got this slave thing going on. You're just working and working when that's not, you know, love. Yes, you can give acts of service, but you were being exploited. Then you have freedom. Freedom from this slave bullshit. I possess the power and the free will to create my own happiness. So again, with like the creativity of it, but also like freedom from this situation, and freedom from this slave energy, and freedom from the perverted version of service. Then you received Taurus, which gives me back this damsel dilettante, because Taurus is ruled by Venus. It's kind of like this lovely, beautiful energy. I'm still getting very feminine, which is funny because your next card is Aries, which is Mars. So that's like very masculine, very aggressive, very spontaneous, very abrupt. I think of like a hyperactive child. So maybe you have like childlike energy. Maybe you have that now, but also like, and I see Gemini. Gemini's the twins, right? People say they're two-faced. They're not. Some of them are two-faced, but most of them have a duality, which people misconstrue as two-faced. And that's kind of what I'm getting here. Like, you have the Venus, Mars. So you have this duality. You're probably very well at balancing your feminine and masculine energies. Although I still see you leaning more towards the feminine side, but it's not like you've completely abandoned the masculine side. The 9th house is the house of knowledge, philosophy, traveling, visiting, and becoming like learning more about other cultures, basically. People don't talk about, they're always like, it's the house of travel. I'm like, yeah, but it's travel because you're like learning about other cultures. You're learning. It's philosophy. It's like all the, you're basically like the other side of academia. You know, there's like math, there's science, 1 + 1 = 2, and then there's like the deep philosophy learning, the understanding of other people's beliefs. So that your brain is pretty much very involved in that. But then you have the 12th house, which is repression. It's also the subconscious, dreams, karma, forgiveness, baggage, and the unseen. Yeah. So maybe you felt you had to hide your smarts for some reason. Like if you, depending on what time period this life was in, you know, maybe you were more of a woman. You were a woman with more feminine attributes. And like, you know, it was illegal for women to learn and stuff. So maybe you like learned on your own, but then you were like, I have to hide the fact that I'm knowledgeable. Sorry. It could also be like, you were very good at accessing your subconscious, which is funny because you received the lock card, and the lock card is about the unknown, and you're not meant to know it. So like maybe, you know, you are very skilled at like spiritual work or accessing things that you're not supposed to know, but this is kind of like, it's telling you, because here you have the leap of faith, right? But you don't want to do it because you're scared. But this is saying like, you're never gonna know for sure, like, oh yes, there's something positive on the other side. And even when there is something positive, you know, negative things will come with it, and vice versa. So it's like, you're never gonna know. If you're waiting to walk away from this situation, if you're waiting for a sign that's like, yes, you're 100% ready, like you're never gonna get that sign. So you just have to walk away now. And you have the earthy, which is, well, let's talk about the erase first. The erase first is, or the erase is, so feeling like the rug was pulled out from under you. So you have kind of like this situation that you think is beautiful, and then out of nowhere it turned ugly. It's kind of like you were walking and then suddenly the floor disappeared and you're just like, oh shit, now I'm falling. So it's kind of telling you like, you need to become aware that this situation is not good for you, and you're never gonna know 100% like this is gonna be, you know, you're waiting for the okay, like the green light. You're good to go. You're never gonna get that. So just, you have to go, even though it's the unknown, even though it's scary. You can't stay in this situation anymore because it's toxic. And you know this. You're just ignoring it. You're ignoring your intuition telling you to walk away from it. And when you do walk away, it's gonna cause you tears. It's gonna be sad, but you know, staying in that situation is way worse. And so you have the earthy, which is about planting roots, basically. Like, you don't have to have it all solved. You don't have to have it ready to go, but you have to take the first step. And so that's kind of what it's saying. It's like, plant the roots and eventually the tree will grow. Eventually your wish will come true. But if you're waiting for like the perfect situation to just jump into, that's never gonna happen. So yeah, I hope that was helpful, group number 3. I didn't have to check my notes this time. I remembered you were group number 3. Subscribe if you're interested in more videos like this. It doesn't cost you anything, which is nice. And if you're annoyed by me, I don't blame you. But keep watching my videos, please. Thank you. I hope you have a nice day, and I hope you have good luck with solving whatever this past life BS is.